Most people spend their lives trying to change what's outside of them. Other people, their work, their routine, the world. And when things don't change, they get frustrated, sick, and desperate. But what if I told you that everything you experience, everything that happens around you, is just a reflection of something that's pulsing inside you? Reality is a mirror, and it never lies. It only reflects. What you deny, it shows. What you hide, it exposes. And what you heal, it transforms. If you keep trying to break the mirror, you'll only hurt yourself. But if you have the courage to look inside, everything around you will start to change. Get ready, because what's coming now will turn your perception upside down, and you'll never see the world the same way again. The mirror doesn't attack you, it reveals you. Reality is not against you. It is not your enemy, nor a divine punishment. It simply reveals with almost cruel precision what you have not yet had the courage to see within yourself. When something hurts you, bothers you, or frustrates you on the outside, it is because there is an active reflection on the inside, and this reflection is crying out for attention. The mirror of the world is not unfair, it is accurate. It shows you, without filters, what you need to see in order to grow. And the more you resist, the more it insists. You can try to run away, you can ignore it, you can rationalize everything. But no matter how much you run, reality will keep showing you the same scenarios, the same pain, the same repetitions, until you understand that it's not about what's outside. It's about what still lives, hidden, unhealed, unaccepted, inside you. It's like an echo. If you scream out your hurt, the world responds with pain. If you vibrate abandonment, the universe returns silence. What you emit becomes what you live. Often, when faced with painful situations, you feel like a victim. You think that life is against you, that the world is harsh, that people are cold. But what you see in other people's attitudes is just a reflection of your relationship with yourself. You attract coldness when you are disconnected from your own warmth. You experience rejection when you reject parts of yourself that need to be embraced. Everything that hurts you on the outside has an internal origin that you have not yet had. The courage to touch. It's uncomfortable, I know. Seeing yourself through pain is a profound process. But it's precisely at that moment that the mirror becomes a portal. It stops being something that just reflects and becomes a path to healing. When you start to see life as an extension of your inner world, everything changes. People stop being villains, events stop being punishments, and everything becomes an invitation. A silent invitation to return to the center, to reconnect, to see yourself for real. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You stop trying to change others and start changing yourself. You realize that there's no point in yelling at your reflection in the mirror. You have to change the expression on your face. And when that happens, everything around you starts to respond differently. Because the mirror of the world has no life of its own. It only faithfully returns what you carry in your invisible field. Reality responds to your frequency. There is a vibration in everything you feel, think, and believe, even if you don't say it out loud. You can repeat 1,000 positive affirmations a day, but if there is fear, insecurity, or anger inside you, that is what will be reflected. Reality is much more sensitive to what you vibrate than to what you verbalize. It's not about what you say you want, it's about what your energy field emits silently. And that's why so many people live trapped in cycles of frustration, because they say they want change, but they vibrate repetition. The universe doesn't listen to words, it listens to frequencies, and that means there's no way to fool the mirror of reality. If there's inconsistency between what you want and what you feel deep down, the reflection will be confusing, unstable, and full of obstacles. But when there's alignment, when you feel peace, act truthfully, and think clearly, the world around you begins to reorganize itself. Doors open, the right people arrive, and the flow happens as if something invisible were working in your favor. But it's not magic. It's just the field's natural response to what you emanate. When you vibrate lack, scarcity, and want, life shows you more absences. When you vibrate gratitude, trust, and surrender. It surprises you with abundance, not because it rewards you, but because you have become compatible with what you want to experience. It's all a question of frequency, and your reality is nothing more than the energetic translation of what you have kept inside yourself. The biggest mistake we can make is trying to control what is outside without first harmonizing what is inside. We try to change people, force situations, manipulate results, and we forget that true power lies in internal alignment. When you change your frequency, everything around you changes. Not because the world has changed, but because now you access another layer of reality, one that was already there but that your old vibration could not reach. And that's why every true transformation begins with a deep dive into yourself. There's no point in painting the mirror if what's behind it is still hurt. You need to listen to yourself, feel yourself, align yourself. You need to become what you want to live. Because in the end, reality doesn't punish you. It just responds. And if you change what you're vibrating today, the world will start responding differently tomorrow. What you judge out there is what you reject in here. The judgments we make about others are like beacons that illuminate parts of ourselves that we have not yet been able to accept. Whenever something about someone deeply bothers you, to the point of arousing anger, contempt, or exaggerated irritation, stop. This discomfort may not have anything to do with the other person, but with you. It is possible that the attitude that hurts you so much actually reveals an aspect of yourself that has been repressed, denied, or forgotten. The world projects onto others what has not yet been accepted within. You may even try to justify it. I'm not like that. I would never do that. But isn't it precisely this excessive denial that prevents you from healing this part of yourself? Maybe you were never as selfish as the person who hurt you, but maybe you were too permissive. Maybe what bothers you about them is their courage to put themselves first, something you've never been able to do. Reality reflects wounds in a paradoxical way, not always showing what we are, but also what we need to integrate. And this is where many people make the mistake of thinking that simply distancing themselves from toxic people is enough to live in peace. But the true healing process is not about running away from the mirror. It is about facing it, not with guilt or self-criticism, but with compassion. When you can look at something that bothers you and ask sincerely, "Why does this affect me so much?" and a silent movement of liberation begins. You move from judgment to awareness, and this internal change transforms everything. The other person becomes just an instrument, an image reflected in the great mirror of life to help you see yourself more clearly. And even if the other person's attitude is wrong, aggressive, or unfair, you can still use it as an access point to your own soul. What does this reveal about my limits, about what I accept, about what I need to heal? The world stops being a battlefield and becomes a hall of mirrors, where each pane points you to a door inwards. And when you start doing this exercise sincerely, you notice that judgments diminish. Reactions dissolve. You stop trying to fix others and start taking care of yourself. And with this internal care, your vibration changes. And when your vibration changes, the mirror of reality changes too. Because what was welcomed inside no longer needs to be repeated outside. Your outer world is shaped by your hidden beliefs. Most of your life is not dictated by what you consciously desire, but by the beliefs you've been carrying around silently, often since childhood. These are stories that were drilled into you before you could even question them. You're not enough. You have to earn love. Money is hard to come by. All happiness comes at a price. These ideas take root so deeply that they become invisible lenses, distorting the way you see the world and yourself. Even when you try to change your reality, these beliefs continue to operate as a hidden code. It's like wanting to sail towards a new destination while an anchor holds you down. You can take courses, move to another city, repeat affirmations. But if the belief still tells you that you are not worthy, reality will continue to show you blocked paths. And the worst part, you start to think that this is your destiny, when in fact it is just unrevised emotional programming. These beliefs shape your relationships, your prosperity, your emotional health, your dreams. They define how much you allow yourself to receive, how much you sabotage yourself, how much you expand or shrink. And usually they are not in conscious phrases, but in automatic sensations. That fear of being rejected, that guilt for allowing yourself to rest, that discomfort when being praised, these are all signs that there is a broken mirror inside you and it needs to be healed. The first step to reprogramming this reality is to courageously identify these beliefs. Look at your history honestly and ask, what have I been taught about love, about value, about success? What stories have I accepted as absolute truths without ever questioning them? When you start to deconstruct these invisible walls, something changes in an almost magical way. You start to breathe more freely. You start to realize that the reality that seemed impossible to change was just a repetition of an old script. And it is at this point that the transformation becomes irreversible. Because when you recognize that the world you lived in was not a reflection of your potential, but of your limited beliefs, you understand that you can write a new story. You can create new beliefs, new codes, new ways of vibrating. And when you do this, the mirror of reality responds as it always has, with accuracy. Only this time, it reflects the brilliance of your truth, no longer the fragments of your pain. Nothing changes out there without first changing here, inside. It is common to see people trying to change everything around them, except themselves. They change houses, partners, jobs, social circles. But the feeling of emptiness, the repetition of pain and emotional patterns remain the same. And this happens because external reality has no autonomy. It only responds to what you carry inside. You can even change the scenery, but if your energy is the same, the story will be the same. It is like painting a cracked wall without fixing the structure. The color changes, but the problem remains there. The big change happens when you stop pointing at the world and start observing yourself deeply. What am I carrying that still vibrates scarcity, rejection, anger, fear? What inside me still believes that I don't deserve to be happy? Because that's what is reflected out there. Not your desires, but your wounds. And until you have the courage to heal these wounds, the mirror of reality will continue to show you what you are trying to ignore. Not out of malice, but out of wisdom. The universe does not punish, it teaches. This internal change is not instantaneous, but it is transformative. When you start treating yourself with more kindness, when you start questioning old beliefs, when you choose to stop blaming yourself for everything, your frequency changes. And this new vibration begins to attract different people, situations, and paths. External reality has no choice but to adapt to the new version of you, because it is a reflection, and no reflection can remain the same when the person looking at it is no longer the same. This doesn't mean that everything will be perfect on the outside, but it does mean that you will no longer be held hostage by your circumstances. You will begin to live with more presence, more clarity, and more personal power. And every time reality tries to pull you back into old patterns, you will remind yourself, this is trying to teach me something about myself. And then, instead of reacting, you will choose to observe. Instead of shutting yourself down, you will choose to grow. And that's when the world starts to conspire in your favor, because you are finally taking control of yourself. There is no way to change the world without changing your perspective. And there is no way to change your perspective without changing yourself. Reality changes when you change the way you treat yourself, the way you respect yourself, the way you position yourself. And when this happens, what was once chaos begins to make sense. What was once pain becomes learning, and what seemed impossible becomes reality. Because now, you are the one in control of the mirror. Silence is where the mirror reveals more. There is a silent wisdom in everything that is left unsaid. When you silence the noise of the world and also the noise within yourself, judgments, comparisons, fears, you begin to hear something that was previously imperceptible, the voice of your essence. In this space of silence, the mirror of reality becomes clearer. Distractions disappear, Disguises fall away, and what is left is you, naked before yourself. And in this often uncomfortable encounter, the possibility of true change is born. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is profound presence. It is when you stop reacting to the world and instead observe what the world is trying to show you. It is when you stop fighting the mirror and start listening to what it wants to tell you. Look at this. Feel this. Allow yourself to understand what moves you. In silence, patterns that were previously hidden behind justifications begin to emerge clearly. And as much as it hurts, that is when healing begins. It is in silence that you realize that you don't need to shout to be heard, nor prove yourself to be seen. You realize that much of your pain is born from the noise of an anxious mind, a heart at war, a soul that has forgotten itself. And by being silent, you don't just listen to yourself. You reconnect with the flow of life. It is there that the answers emerge, that the signs appear, that intuition speaks. That reality begins to guide you with ease. Learning to remain silent in the face of provocation, criticism, or absence is one of the greatest acts of inner strength. Because those who remain silent consciously do not remain silent out of weakness, they remain silent out of wisdom. And those who choose silence to listen to their own heart will never again be fooled by the illusions of the broken mirror. Because now, instead of reacting to the reflection, you choose to transform it from the root. And when you get used to silence, everything starts to make more sense. Answers come effortlessly, decisions become clearer, and the world seems less threatening. Because now, instead of shouting to change the world, you whisper within and change everything. The mirror of reality bends before the one who has found his or her own truth in silence. Reality does not judge, it obeys. Life is not punishing you, nor is it conspiring against you. Reality has no judgments, preferences, or intentions of its own. It simply responds. Like a mirror that reflects with millimetric precision what you vibrate, feel, and believe. This means that even when you are sabotaging yourself, diminishing yourself, or repeating destructive patterns, reality does not correct you. It simply obeys. And this is, at the same time, frightening and liberating. Because everything depends on how you position yourself before yourself. If you believe you don't deserve something, life won't send it to you. If you feel like you need to make an effort to be loved, it will put you in situations where love requires effort. If you are afraid of being abandoned, you will live in fragile relationships where abandonment becomes constant. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because reality reads your vibration as a command. It doesn't interfere, it just executes. The external world moves according to the secret language of your energy, even if you don't realize what you are saying. That's why so many people live stuck in the same cycles. Even when they try to do things differently, they don't realize that reality is just following what they unconsciously order. And changing this requires more than words. It requires presence. It requires that you take full responsibility for your energy. Because as long as you think the world is to blame, you will continue to emit the same frequencies. But the day you understand that reality doesn't judge you, it just reflects you, you assume the power to change the reflection. This is a profound awakening, realizing that reality is neutral, but highly sensitive to your consciousness. It is ready to reflect any version of you. If you treat yourself with love, it reflects harmony. If you expand, it opens paths. If you stand up for yourself with truth, it gives you real connections. But if you abandon yourself, it gives you absence. Reality has no ethics. It has precision. And this gives you back an immense power, the power to recreate everything from within. So stop waiting for the world to save you. Stop waiting for someone to understand you, for circumstances to change, or for luck to find you. Reality is just waiting for you to change the message you are sending. And when you change, it changes too. Not like magic, but like an inevitable response. Because the mirror does not question. It only reflects what you have the courage to be. What you accept internally ceases to haunt you externally. As long as you reject a part of yourself, the world will continue to bring you situations that expose it. It's as if reality were gently and insistently saying, "Look at this." What you don't accept in yourself manifests itself on the outside, not to punish you, but to show you that you need to be embraced. If you deny your vulnerability, you will attract people who make you feel weak. If you reject your shadow, you will find people who point out to you what you don't want to see. And this will continue until you embrace what you previously pushed away. The process of acceptance is one of the most powerful there is, because accepting does not mean resigning or settling. It means recognizing without struggle what is part of you. Your pain, your traumas, your mistakes, your fears. All of this is part of your humanity. And as long as you keep trying to erase these parts, they will continue to manifest themselves in the world's reflection. But when you decide to look with compassion at what scares you the most, the mirror changes, because it no longer needs to show you what you have already accepted. What is accepted dissolves. What is rejected repeats itself. This is one of the most silent laws of existence, and perhaps that is why so many people live haunted by patterns that seem inexplicable. But the explanation lies within. When you say to yourself, "I accept myself even though I am afraid. I embrace myself even though I am insecure. I allow myself to feel this without guilt," a new vibration is established, and reality, which was previously a field of projected internal battles, begins to become a field of peace. You don't need to be cured to transform your reality, but you need to be aware. You need to observe yourself truthfully. And, most importantly, you need to stop running away from what built you, because it is precisely by embracing your story without resistance that you become whole. And those who are whole no longer need the world to point out lost pieces. The reflection changes, because the frequency has changed. And where before there was repetition, now there is lightness. Accepting yourself is perhaps the most revolutionary act you can do, because by doing so, you break the cycle. You stop the need to live in painful reflections. You look at yourself with love, and the mirror responds with beauty. You honor yourself, and then reality returns respect. You free yourself, and the world gives you wings back. Resisting the reflex is prolonging the suffering. Pain doesn't just come from what life shows you, it comes from your resistance to accepting what it's trying to reveal. Whenever you deny what repeats itself, what hurts, what provokes you, you create friction. And this friction becomes suffering. Reality comes to you with a mirror in its hand, trying to show you something that needs to be seen. But if you close your eyes, scream, struggle, and insist on denying the reflection, it won't give up. On the contrary, it turns up the volume until you hear it. Because the more you resist, the more life insists. It is common to think that circumstances, people, the past, and bad luck are to blame. But the truth is that you are often just fighting against the lesson you need to learn. You are wasting energy trying to block the mirror, instead of using it to understand yourself better. And this leads to exhaustion, because there is nothing more tiring than running away from yourself forever. And reality, being a reflection, will continue to create paths for you to return to the point you are avoiding. Resistance is not strength. It is fear in disguise. Fear of feeling, of seeing, of touching something inside that has been repressed for so long. But resistance does not cancel out the truth. It only postpones it. And the longer you postpone it, the denser the experience becomes, until one day there is nowhere left to run. And it is at that moment, when you finally surrender, that the healing begins. Because instead of fighting the mirror, you start listening to what it has to say. Accepting the reflection does not mean accepting the pain. It means recognizing that it is there for a reason, and that reason always points inward. Maybe it is time to put an end to repetitive cycles, and that only happens when you look honestly at what is being reflected. What is this pain trying to teach me? What part of me is asking for attention? When you ask these questions, the suffering diminishes, because it stops being a punishment and becomes a path. And then you realize that what was hurting you was just an unheard message, a part of you that just wanted to be acknowledged. And when you acknowledge it, everything changes. The mirror stops being an enemy and becomes a guide. Reality stops being a burden and becomes a healing mirror. Because now you are no longer resisting, you are opening up. And those who open up to the truth find freedom. Change the feeling and the seeing changes. You can want the best, say the best, act with good intentions. But if deep down you feel scarcity, fear, or insecurity, this is what the world will give you back. The universe does not respond to your words, but to your most intimate emotional vibration. And this vibration is born above all from what you feel. There is no point in wanting a new reflection if, inside, you continue to feed the same feelings as always. Change does not begin with the mind. It begins with the heart. It's the feeling that shapes the field. And that means that if you learn to change what you feel, you change what you see. But here's the challenge. Feeling differently isn't about forcing positivity or pretending everything is okay. It's a profound process of reconnecting with yourself, of choosing new emotional responses day after day, of noticing when old fears return and not feeding them, of embracing sadness without drowning in it, of allowing yourself to feel self-love, even before any external validation. When you begin to tune into higher emotions like gratitude, presence, love, and trust, something in your field immediately shifts, and reality responds with synchronicities, encounters, and unexpected solutions. It's as if the world suddenly opens up a new path before your feet. But that path has always been there. It just wasn't visible on the previous frequency. It's like changing the radio station. Other songs start playing, but they've always been available. You're the one who wasn't tuning in. And the big turning point comes when you understand that changing your feelings doesn't depend on external factors. You don't have to wait for life to get better to feel good. You can feel good, and thus make your life better. This requires practice, awareness, and repeated choices. But each time you choose to vibrate differently, even for a few minutes, you create a new reflex, a new pattern, a new line of reality. And this has a powerful, cumulative effect. Ultimately, the world you see is a painting made with the colors of your feelings. If you change the internal palette, the external landscape changes. The reflection changes because the light that emits it has also changed. And that's when everything makes sense. You realize that the mirror has always been on your side. It just needed you to feel with truth again, and not with fear. Reality always shows you where the cure is. There is an invisible map being drawn before you every day. And this map is not in books, nor in the words of others. It is in the idea experiences that are repeated. What hurts, what bothers, what irritates, all of these are arrows pointing to something that needs to be healed. Reality never misses its target. If it shows you abandonment, that is where your wound is. If it shows you humiliation, that is where your value has been hidden. If it shows you scarcity, that is where the belief of deservingness is blocked. Each event is a mirror that reveals with precision where your soul still cries for help. Most people run away from these clues. They close themselves off, victimize themselves, blame the world, and sink into the narratives they have been repeating for years. But the answers are never in the drama. They are in the details, in what activates you, in that emotion that knocks you off balance, in that feeling that seems small, but comes back every time someone touches an open wound. Life does not provoke you out of malice. It wants you to look, because only when you see can you heal, and when you decide to stop reacting but to investigate, everything starts to make sense. You stop living like someone lost and start to decipher your own soul. Why did this hurt me so much? Why? Does this remind me of something from my childhood? What does this current abandonment have to do with the fear I've always carried? These questions have more power than any advice, because they bring you back to your own center. And in that center lies the key to transformation. Reality is not random. It is pedagogical, and the hardest lessons often hide the greatest treasures. The relationship that destroyed you may have revealed your emotional dependence. The job you lost may have exposed how disconnected you have become from your talents. The friendship that betrayed you may have been an invitation for you to stop giving your loyalty to those who do not give the same in return. Everything is healing, if you have the courage to see the purpose behind the chaos. And when this courage is born, you change roles. You stop being a victim of reality and become an alchemist of your own journey. You understand that every pain was a lesson. Every loss was a cleansing. Every obstacle was an invitation to expansion. Reality, which before seemed cruel, reveals itself to be a generous teacher, because it doesn't abandon you until you learn. And when you learn, it changes. Because now the reflection no longer needs to teach you, it can just accompany you. You are the artist and the mirror is the canvas. You may have lived your life believing that life happens to you, rather than realizing that it happens through you, but the truth is simple and powerful. You are the artist, the creator, the point of origin. And reality is just the canvas on which your energy is projected. Everything you feel, think, and believe becomes paint. And these invisible paints paint the scenes of your life with colors, shapes, and experiences that follow the tone of your soul at that moment. The question is, are you painting your reality with fear or with love? You often think you are a victim of what the world offers. But in reality, the world is only offering what you have allowed to be created within you. Your thoughts feed images, your emotions reinforce forms, your actions shape contours. And each day the screen of reality absorbs these messages and gives them back to you in concrete form. Nothing happens by chance. Coincidence is just the name we give to what we create without realizing it. You are creating all the time, even when you don't want to. Being an artist of your own reality requires responsibility. Not the heavy, guilt-ridden kind, but the lightness of knowing that you have choices. That you can change the lines, redo the lines, abandon the old color palette, and start over, from scratch if necessary. You are not condemned to the work you have already created. You can change the tone. You can erase. You can redesign. You can be reborn. Because the mirror of life is generous. It reflects the most current version of who you allow yourself to be. But to do this, you need to let go of the brush of fear. Stop painting under pressure. Stop copying other people's work. Stop trying to please other people's eyes. You need to create your own art, even if it seems crooked, dark, or confusing at first. Every great work is born from chaos before finding form. And your reality is no different. The mess you see may just be the background of the canvas, about to be covered by the beauty that emerges when you finally position yourself as the creator of your own story. And when this awareness awakens, the mirror changes, because now it no longer reflects a lost character. It reflects an artist in action. You stop trying to control the reflections and start choosing the colors. You start painting with more presence, more truth, more love. And the world, like a watchful mirror, returns exactly that. The beauty you create inside starts to reveal itself outside. The mirror obeys whoever has the courage to look at itself. The greatest change happens when you stop running away from yourself and choose, with courage, to truly look at yourself, not with shame, not with judgment, but with presence, with that real desire to understand what is pulsing inside. Because the mirror of reality has always been there, silent, just waiting for you to use it to evolve. And when you decide to face the reflection, even if you are afraid, even if you don't have all the answers, the magic begins. Because the mirror doesn't demand perfection, it responds to your truth. If you look at yourself with anger, the world will return conflict. If you look at yourself with love, the world will return beauty. It all starts with that look, with the way you see yourself when you wake up, with the words you say to yourself in silence, with the way you embrace your flaws, your doubts, your fears. Because what you accept in yourself stops imprisoning you in reality, and what you honor in yourself starts to blossom on the outside. Reality changes when your gaze changes, and your gaze changes when you stop hiding. It's easy to blame others, the past, the system, fate. But it's an act of courage to admit that you have power, that your energy creates, influences, and transforms, that you're not here to live random reflections, but to command the mirror. When you change your frequency, your intention, and your inner positioning, everything realigns. The pieces move, the doors open, the mirror obeys, because it has always reflected who you are, decided to be. And from that point on, life takes on a different texture. You stop seeking validation, you stop chasing signs, you stop forcing your own path. Because you already understand. What is yours resonates with you, and everything that needs to change on the outside starts with a small internal movement. A gesture of self-compassion, a more conscious choice, a firmer limit, a more aligned decision, and the world with its precise mirror takes care of the rest. So it's not about waiting for miracles. It's about becoming the miracle, about adjusting your field, your intention, your surrender. Because when you position yourself with truth, the mirror of reality has no alternative. It responds, always. And it responds to the height of what you have decided to emanate. Reality is a mirror, and now you know what to do with it. You don't have to fight the world anymore. You just have to learn to look at yourself. If this video sparked something inside you, write in the comments. Today I choose to command the mirror. That simple sentence is your turning point. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because when you change, everything changes. And the reflection comes, always.